Hello there and welcome to our broadcast. I'm so happy that you're joining me. Many of you have been with us each week and you know that we're in a series on love. We're calling it Love Handles, how to get a grip on your relationships. And the truth of the matter is about love is not always, loving others is not always easy. And I know some of you would agree with that. In fact, I received several emails this week about from people who are walking through some situations with someone they love, and it was difficult for them. How many of you know love can be difficult? Sometimes it's inconvenient, sometimes it's a hassle, sometimes it's confusing, it's just hard, especially when we love the way the Bible teaches us to love. Like in John chapter 13, where Jesus said, "Love one another just like I have loved you." Now, had Jesus said, "Love one another," and stopped, it would have been detrimental for us because we most likely would then have developed an "I love you if." In other words, if you do right, I'll love you. If you act right, I'll love you. If you treat me right, I'll love you. But that clause, "like I have loved you," that's the game changer, isn't it? Because God's love is a no strings attached kind of love. It's a love that no matter what one does or what one says, it just keeps on loving. So let's look at a couple of more characteristics of love from 1 Corinthians 13. And today we come to verse 7. Verse 7 says, "Love always protects and love always trusts." Let's check out those two things this morning. First of all, love protects. And listen, let me read that to you in this expanded translation. Love is not happy when someone has sin in their life and fails, and love does not say, "I told you so, it's your fault." Real love says, "I want God's best for you, and I will love you when you fail, just as I will when you succeed." Simply put, if you love someone, you will at the same time desire the absolute best for that one's life. And by the way, this word "protects" is an interesting word. It's a Greek word stego, and it means to shield or to suppress. It is the idea of so desiring the best for others that we protect them, we shield them from ridicule and harm and exposure, especially when they're walking through a season where they've kind of blown it. Even when they've fallen into some obvious sin, some blatant sin. Or we might say it this way. Real love, God's kind of love, doesn't run away from someone who's blown it. Real love runs to that person and says, "I'm so sorry you're going through this, but I want you to know that I love you. I don't judge you. I'm here for you. I will pray for you, and you can count on me to be your friend." So that sometimes those kinds of things are easier said than done, right? So let me give you a couple of tips, a couple of ways you can accomplish this protecting kind of love. The first one I would say to you is this: learn to feel my pain. We call it empathy or hurting where other people hurt. In other words, getting a handle on love means that I'm not afraid to walk in someone else's shoes. It's like what Isaiah says Jesus did at the cross. He said, Jesus took our weaknesses upon himself and carried all our sorrows. Now think about that. In the literal sense, leading up to the cross and even on the cross, Jesus felt our pain as he gave his life, didn't he? So here's how that plays out for us. When I see another who's hurting or grieving, especially because of some wrong and foolish choice they've made, simply put, I'm going to be there for them. I will be their friend. I will hurt with them. I'll cry with them. I'll pray with them. I'll just be there. Because you know what? Sometimes a person, what they need more than any other thing when they're hurting or when they've blown it is just to know that someone is on their side. That someone actually cares. Would you agree? All right, a second tip for you. Don't be a tattletale. Here's a great way to protect. Isn't it amazing how as a society we have become so eager to expose the dirt in someone else's life? I mean, you can get on the TV tonight and look at any news program you want to, and they are digging up dirt on politicians, movie stars, just people in general, because everyone wants to know about the dirt. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we've always been that way. Maybe our society's always been that way, but we just have better access today to the various media outlets. I don't know. But just for kicks, check that out. Or I'll tell you what, the next time you go to the supermarket and you're standing there by the tabloids before you check out, just take a look at some of those tabloid headlines. I mean, they are horrible. It may be a little funny, too. I've just noticed several lately. Biden's dirty little secrets. Trump's dirty little secrets. Bush did cocaine at the White House. Abe Lincoln was a woman. Seriously. You see, there's a dark side to human nature that actually delights in exposing and tattling about another person's faults or problems, or in Honest Abe's case, just making them up, right? In other words, we just seem to love to see that skeleton in the closet exposed, don't we? Just as long as it's not the one in my closet, right? It's what children do. I'm telling Mom on you. Daddy, Billy hit me. Susie said a cuss word. And here's what love does. It's just the opposite. Love throws a gracious mantle over another person's faults, while helping that one who has fallen get back up and receive a new start. And listen, there's no more significant example of this than God Himself. Aren't you glad God doesn't call the angels together and say, would you look down there? Would you look and see who's on by the way, let me just see some of you who's online with me today. Carol's here. Ken is here. Doobie is here. Don't know Doobie. I'm not even going to ask how you came up with that Doobie for your online name here on our website there, sir or ma'am. But so happy to have you with us, Mon. So where was I? Oh, yes. Aren't you glad God doesn't call the angels together and say, would you look at that? Would you look at Carol? Would you look at Ken? Would you look at Doobie? Heck, look at the whole bunch of them there on that New Day feed today. Aren't they just awful? Did you know they do this and did you know they do that? That's not what God does. That's not His MO, is it? Here's what God did. 1 John chapter 4. This is love. Not that we loved God, but that He loved us and sent His Son as a propitiation for our sins. Do you know what propitiation means? It means a covering or a blanket. Guess what? Jesus is the blanket for every one of our weaknesses and all our failures, all our sin, and all of our shame. Why? Because God is not in the business of exposing you or me to anyone. What He is about, however, is being there to throw His blanket of grace and forgiveness and perfect love over my every flaw and offense when I come to Him. All the while reminding me that I am His beloved and that He still believes in me. All right, that brings me to the second thing I want to talk about today. Love protects. And secondly, Paul said in verse 7, love encourages. Love trusts, rather. Love protects and love trusts. Now, that means that He always believes the best for you. It's the idea of being a cheerleader. You can do this. I know you can. I have faith in you. I believe in you. Those kinds of things. You see, we live in this world of put-downs today, don't we? Where everyone's scratching and clawing their way to the top of the heap, no matter what it takes or who gets hurt along the way. Think with me here. In your life right now, there are people that you love and care for, right? Did you know that some of them don't always think so highly of themselves? In fact, probably all of them from time to time. And though you think highly of them, for whatever reason, they don't see in themselves what you see in them. I learned this with my oldest son back when he was a teenager. We gave him a journal for young men where he was to read a couple of pages each day and then answer a few key questions, all teenage stuff, you know. Well, one evening I asked him if I could read some of what he had written, and he agreed. And so after he went to bed, I took his journal and I read a few things. And one question he answered really shook me. The question was, what is your opinion of yourself? And his answer was, I'm ugly. I think he was about 15 at the time. What is your opinion of yourself? He responded, I'm ugly. I want to tell you something. That blew my mind. And I know all parents think their kids are beautiful. I get that. But honestly, this was a very good-looking teenage boy. I mean, handsome, great athlete, a leader in his school. But he said the answer to the question was, I'm ugly. Man, that just broke my heart for my son. And it also led me to quit taking the encouragement thing lightly. And it also caused me to make a renewed effort to be a better cheerleader to my son and to my family. And hey, it's not just teenagers. Everyone needs a cheerleader. You would be amazed at the number of successful-looking folks who seem to be doing well in life, yet they suffer from fear and things like shame and insecurity. In fact, I have a friend who runs a very successful company. But most days, he says, when he looks in the mirror, he begins thinking to himself, what a loser this guy is in the mirror. I'm divorced. I'm alone. It's all my fault. And it's just not and as sad as that is, it's not just my friend. Many of your friends and your family members do the same type thing. They look in the mirror and think, you know what, I'm stupid. I'm ugly. I'm weak. I'm such a failure. And I'm not saying we should encourage others by pretending that they have no faults or areas that they don't need to improve on. Absolutely not. But I am saying that love's job, our job, is to make sure they don't at the same time overlook all their good qualities. Because how many know everyone has good qualities too? Which brings me to this. Let me leave you with these tips, these reminders. Appreciation, number one, appreciation accomplishes more than criticism. Paul says in 1 Thessalonians, therefore, encourage one another and build each other up. Let me read a poem to you. Louis Shimon wrote this poem, and some of you may have heard this, but it really is good. It's delightful, but it's so good and apropos to what I'm talking about. We're going to put it on the screen for you, in fact. It goes this way. Wouldn't this old world be better if the folks we meet would say, I know something good about you, and then treat us that way? Wouldn't it be fine and dandy if each hand clasp, fond and true, carried with it this assurance, I know something good about you? Wouldn't life be lots more happy if all the good that's in us, all were the only thing about us that folks bothered to recall? Wouldn't life be lots more happy if we praised the good we see? For there's such a lot of goodness in the worst of you and me. Wouldn't it be nice to practice that fine way of thinking too? You know something good about me, I know something good about you. Isn't that a great little poem? You see, it's so easy to criticize and pick out faults and emphasize the negative in another person, especially those you love the most. Isn't that sad? But far, far more is accomplished when I show appreciation for your good rather than when I pick out your bad. And those you are loving will ultimately, I promise you, they will ultimately love their lives, their God, themselves, and you better as they are appreciated more than they're criticized. One time I read a story about Andrew Carnegie, who was the wealthiest man in America at one time. He owned the largest steel manufacturing company way back in the Industrial Revolution. His company was so successful that at one time he had 43 millionaires working for him. Can you imagine? Now back then, a millionaire was a rare person. And $1 million at the time was like 30 million or more today. So you can see what a deal that was. Well, one day a reporter asked Carnegie how he developed these men to become so valuable to him that he would pay them so much money. Carnegie replied that people are developed a lot like we develop gold. He said, when gold is mined, several tons of dirt must be moved to get just 1 ounce of gold. However, Carnegie said, one does not go into a gold mine looking for dirt. One goes in a gold mine looking for gold. Isn't that good? And that's it. Carnegie was right on. Appreciation accomplishes way more than criticism. The second thing I want to leave with you is this. If you think so, say so. James chapter 4 says this, if anyone knows some good he should do or she should do, but refuses, he or she commits sin. In other words, when you have an opportunity to give out a, hey, great job, or way to go, do it. And there are all sorts of ways for this to happen, even without saying it. Like in your home, you might write a letter or a note and leave it under the pillow for your spouse. My wife loves these kinds of things. Give a present or flowers with an encouraging card pointing out some things that you just love about this person. Send an email or just send a card in snail mail. People still love to get encouraging cards in the mail. Or how about this? Just eyeball to eyeball. Give some encouragement to another individual, loving encouragement to that person. Women, by the way, for you men who happen to be married, women love this sort of thing. I read of an old study of students that revealed the powerful effect of good old-fashioned encouragement. There was a classroom of students, and it was divided into 3 groups, A, B, and C. On every Group A paper that was turned in, the teacher would only put a grade, A, B, C, D, whatever. No comment of any kind was added, just the grade. On every Group B paper, the teacher would put the grade and then added a simple word like good, fine, nice work. Finally, on every Group C paper, the teacher would write the grade, but also would add an extended note. The teacher would praise the students for the good parts of their paper and pointing out their mistakes and ways to correct them in the future. If a student did something beautiful, the teacher praised it and even called attention to it in front of the class. The teacher also added personal edifying statements to this group, to Group C. Things like, I'm so proud of you. You will go far one day. Hey, what a great mind you have. What a talent you are, and etc. Well, guess what? After the study was completed, the results indicated that Groups A and B generally turned in the same kind of papers week after week after week. But as you probably have already guessed, Group C improved noticeably every single week. Listen, encouragement is a powerful, powerful force for good and positive life change for children and for adults. By the way, from the moment I met my wife, Nancy, she has preached a very simple truth to me or whoever would listen, and this is it. She always says, people become what you believe them to be. In other words, they either live up or down to your expectations. If you tell a child, take a big swing, you can hit that ball, that child will most times go to the plate and get a hit, or at least try very hard. If you treat your wife as if she's the most beautiful woman in the world, she will be transformed before your eyes. If you treat your husband like he's the smartest person in the world, it won't do any good. because most of us men are just dumb. But go ahead and try anyway, because with God, all things are supposed to be possible. Miracles can happen. That'd be a big miracle. I get it. Okay, last thing today. When you give it, you will always get it. The short version of Luke 6:38 says, what you give away to others will be given back to you. And Paul said in Galatians 6, you will always reap what you sow. So you see, what goes around, love, encouragement, criticism, hate, whatever, what goes around will always come back around. So if we want to be encouraged, encouraging others would be a great place to start, don't you think? Do you want to be appreciated? I imagine you'd say yes. I think everybody would. Do you want someone to empathize with you? Would you like to be loved genuinely and authentically the way God loves? You always get back what you give. If you need those things, give those things away. Some of you that are football fans might remember the name Bart Starr. Bart Starr was one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. But Bart Starr was also a great dad. One year, he made an arrangement with his oldest son, who was a teenager, that he thought would encourage some good grades. So for every A that Bart Jr. brought home, his dad would give him a quarter. Now, this was in the early 60s, okay? Quarter was a big deal back then for a young teenager. So every time he would bring an A home, he would get a quarter from his dad. Well, one Sunday, the Packers had a pretty bad game. In fact, they stunk it up really bad. And Starr himself did not play well at all. So after this long plane ride home, Bart Starr arrived at his house, worn out, feeling pretty lousy about himself. However, after entering his bedroom, he got encouraged because he found a handwritten note from his son. And he opened it up, and this is what it said. Dear Dad, I watched the game. I watched all of it, and I think you played a great game. I'm proud of you, Dad. And watch this. Taped to the bottom of that note were 2 quarters. Hey, everyone needs to be encouraged, and even a little encouragement goes a long, long way. Now, here's some homework for you this week. In this season of your life, I'm not sure what your needs are, but I suspect if you enumerated them, you could come up with 3 kind of major needs that you have. Maybe you need encouragement. Maybe you need just to be loved, frankly. Maybe you need a friend. Maybe you need finances. I don't know. Here's the deal. Write those down. And then look for ways to go do those things or be those things to someone else this week. And when you do, let's just see what God might do in their lives and then back to you. What do you say? Will you do your homework? Will you take that challenge with me? I'm going to do it this week. Let's see what God does. Let's see what happens. Hey, next week we will conclude this series. I'm planning a great teaching for you. It's going to be good. Be sure and tell your friends. If you're watching this on social media, put it on your page and share it on your page so others will see what you do on Sundays or whenever you happen to see this broadcast, okay? I thank you again for being with us. I hope you have a God-filled and love-filled week this week. See you soon. Bye-bye.